Well, with that PowerPoint, we're beginning our service today with our guest speaker, Daria Devlin. And we'll start with the bell ringing. So please, everyone unmute yourself so we can hear your bells. And these are the words that go with it. I assume you can hear me. With the sound of bells, we welcome stranger and friend to a time of mindfulness. The welcoming. Those are the bells. Now, please mute yourself again, except for Howard Krack, who will sing our welcoming song.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Thank you, Howard. My opening words: zoom into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come and you shall know peace and joy. Jackson will start us off with Sonata in B flat by Scarlatti.
I'm going to really quick do another piece because I tried to work that one up and I have something else. So give me 1 second.
Jackson. You got 2 for the price of 1. One of our rituals every Sunday morning is to give people an opportunity to light a chalice, if you happen to have one. And there's some words that go with the lighting the chalice that Nancy Reed will read.
The light of the sun does not lift the shadows that have fallen on humanity the world over. We relight our chalice flame to reignite a spirit of radical optimism, knowing it takes us all living what matters to dispel those who would divide us. May our free religious community embody the right relationships our world so desperately needs.
Thank you, Nancy. Another one of our rituals are our bonds of union, which this morning will be led by Lee Costis.
You're muted.
We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. And our 1898 Bond of Union, we unite ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, believing that we may thereby prove helpful one to another and promote the cause of truth, righteousness, and love in the world.
Thank you, Lee. This morning we have 2 readings planned. Actually, they're 2 parts of the same poem. It's called There Was a Child Went Forth Every Day by Walt Whitman. I'm going to read the first part, and before our speaker speaks, Lee will read the second part. So this is the first part of our readings. There was a child went forth every day, and the first object he looked upon, that object the child became. And that object became part of him for the day, or a certain part of the day, or for many years, or stretching cycles of years. The early lilacs became part of this child, and grass, and red and white morning glories, and white and red clover, and the song of the phoebe bird, and the March-born lambs, and the sow's pink faint litter, and the mare's foal, and the cow's calf, and the noisy brood of the barnyard, or by the mire of the pond side. And the fish suspending themselves so curiously below there, and the beautiful, curious liquid, and the water plants with their graceful flat heads, all became part of him. And the field sprouts of April and May became part of him. Winter grain sprouts, and those of the light yellow corn, and of the esculent roots of the garden, and the apple trees covered with blossoms, and the fruit afterward, and woodberries, and the commonest weeds by the road, and all the changes of city and country wherever the child went. We move now to the weekly offertory. And today we'll have a special input here from Beth Copay about our building, our capital camp, excuse me, from Beth Copay about our annual canvas. So Beth?
Good morning. So I'm Beth Copay. I use she, her pronouns, and we are calling on the Haudenosaunee and Erie Native peoples' native lands. And so my story, I was feeling really lost. This was a couple years ago before I joined this congregation. Because I had an extremely unique view on what a higher power was. And I would get personally offended if another religious body went against that grain. Which now that I've done some growing, I realized not to take everything so personally. But I attended a workshop at the UU congregation down in Meadville about trauma in children. And we were sitting in their main room. And I was like, holy moly, what is this place? Because there was this tree with all the different religious symbols like on the wall. And I was looking at the books and I was like, I've never seen or been in a place like this before, and I need to find out more. So I took some of the flyers about what UU was, and I didn't feel like driving down to Meadville every weekend. So I found one at Erie, and I feel I am at home now. I feel I found a community that I feel safe in, but at the same time challenged in my personal beliefs. And like with any home, it requires upkeep and maintenance, like physical maintenance and also spiritual and mental and emotional maintenance. And that is why I pledged, because I feel I want to create that home for other individuals. So thank you for listening to my little spiel this morning. And we can go back to our regularly scheduled program.
Well, thank you, Beth, very much. Now we're going to have a performance by the UUCE choir. They're going to sing Building Bridges. And Clyde, can you find that? The choir.
I reach out. Sorry. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With building our bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to me. Reach out to me with building our bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me with building bridges between our divisions? I reach out to me. Will you reach out to me with building our bridges between our divisions? reach out to me, will you reach out to me? With all of our graces and all of our visions, our reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all our graces and all our visions, our reach out to me, will you reach out to me? With all of our graces and all of our visions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all our graces and all our visions, I reach out to me, will you reach out to me? With all of our graces and all of our visions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all our voices and all our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Okay, we have a second part to the reading.
There was a child went forth every day. The child's own parents became part of him. He that fathered him and she that conceived him in her womb and birthed him. They gave this child more of themselves than that. They gave him afterward every day. They became part of him. The mother quietly placing the dishes on the supper table, the mother with mild words, cleaning her cap and gown, a wholesome odor falling off her person and clothes as she walked by. The father, strong, self-sufficient, manly, mean, angered, unjust, the quick, loud word, the tight bargain, the crafty lure, the family usages, the language, the company, the furniture, the yearning and swelling heart, affection that will not be gainsaid, the sense of what is real, the thought if, after all, it should prove unreal. The doubts of daytime and the doubts of nighttime, the curious whether and how, whether that which appears so is so, or is it all flashes and specks? Men and women crowding fast in the streets. If they are not flashes and specks, what are they? The streets themselves and the facades of houses, the goods in the windows, vehicles, teams, the tiered wharves, and the huge crossings at the ferries, the strata of colored clouds, the horizon's edge, the flying sea crow, the fragrance of salt marsh and shore mud. These became part of that child who went forth every day and who now goes and will always go forth every day.
Thank you, Lee. It's now my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this morning. A lifelong resident of the city of Erie, Daria Devlin is the executive director of the Erie Center for Arts and Technology. Prior to this role, she served as coordinator of grants and communications for Erie's public schools. She's an alumna of the district, having attended Piper Burley Elementary School, and in 1995 graduated from the former Central High. Daria holds a bachelor's degree from Colgate University and a master's in educational leadership from Edinburgh University. She lives in the city of Erie with her husband, Neil, and 3 teenage sons, Nick, Nate, and Alex. She is cross-filed as candidate for the Erie Public Schools Board of Education. Daria's talk will focus on Erie Center for Arts and Technology's replication of the successful Manchester Bidwell Educational model and the decision to locate the program here in Erie in the former Wayne School at 6th and East Avenue. As pointed out on Manchester Bidwell's website, creative thought is embraced and encouraged. I note that the first UU principle of affirming the worth and dignity of every person seems analogous to Manchester Bidwell's belief that people are, quote, born as assets, unquote. Anyone, if given the proper positive environment, can grow the seed of personally genius buried inside him or herself. I believe that such philosophy is already shared by most members of our UU congregation. Last year, the Erie Times News editorial board recognized that, quote, ECAT could power East Erie renewal, unquote. Daria will now elaborate on her vision of this project and its holistic impact on Erie's Eastside neighborhoods. Daria?
Thank you so much, Al. That was a wonderful introduction. Can everyone just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me okay? Great, thank you. So good morning. I'm so honored and humbled to be here with you this morning, and I'm so grateful to Al for the invitation. When he called me to ask me to speak today and told me that the theme was vision, I asked him why he was asking me. And so it really took me a while, and I really wanted to think through how to talk to you today about this project that we've undertaken. But when I was listening to your Bond of Union this morning and heard the phrase radical optimism, I couldn't think of any better way to describe this project that we are now doing. So I'm going to speak to you today. I started my timer here because I was told very much to stick to my time, and I will. And I have a few slides that I'll be showing you just to help along the way. But as Al mentioned, I'm an executive director of the Erie Center for Arts and Technology. We go by the acronym ECAT. ECAT is, we believe, the 13th replication of the Manchester Bidwell model. I would really encourage you, if you're interested in learning more, to learn about this model. It's been replicated in urban centers like Chicago, San Francisco, Grand Rapids, but also here in Pennsylvania in rural areas such as Brockway and Sharon. And so we are honored to be entering this family of this successful replication. Here in Erie, the organization was formed in 2017 by a board of directors. I was hired as the first executive director in January of 2019 and tasked with building and honoring this model here. And as I'll tell you today, I think you'll see what a task and what a humbling experience that has been. ECAT is governed by a board of directors. There are 14 of them, one of whom is your very own member, Linda Graff, who I was happy to hear would be with us today. That makes me feel a little more at home. Although we are inspired by the Manchester Bidwell model, we are free to adjust it and replicate it here in Erie to meet our needs. And I think that's really important as we talk today. So as I tell you the story, I'm going to start here, share my screen with you this morning, because I need to tell you that the story really all begins with this man. This is Bill Strickland. He is the founder of Manchester Bidwell. I've listed a few places you might learn more about him, his TED Talk, his book, and his NPR interview. But really all about Bill is what you need to know is that Bill was born in the 1950s in Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh at a time of racial riots and unrest. He grew up on the Manchester neighborhood of Pittsburgh, which is on the city's north side. And he really saw a need in his community to help people that felt disenfranchised, to help people that he grew up with there. And he was inspired truly by the arts. He tells a wonderful story in his TED Talk about how he really was ready to drop out of high school himself, feeling disenfranchised, but was inspired by his art teacher who taught ceramics in the local high school, who showed him that ceramics could be a way for him to express himself, to create, and to find that beauty that really is needed in the world. And so Bill was able to graduate from high school with the help of that high school teacher, went on to Pitt, and decided he needed to bring this beauty back to the other youth in his neighborhood that were caught up in this difficult time in the 1960s. So he started an organization called the Manchester Craftsman Guild. It offered after school arts programming for kids. And there are wonderful pictures of him just sitting on his porch doing ceramics with some of the youth in the neighborhood. Not long after he formed Manchester Craftsman Guild, he was asked to take over the management of the organization called the Bidwell Training Center. And that was an organization that did adult job training. But when he went into Bidwell, what he saw was a place that was falling down. He saw a place that was really, truly not showing dignity or respect to any of its residents, was asking adults to come in and receive job training from the government, but really wasn't doing anything to give hope or opportunity for these people. And so he decided that this was not the way that he wanted to move forward. And he decided to combine both of these things into a brand new model. And so he formed and based on this quote here, I love this. This is in the book that I just mentioned. He said that in doing this work with the folks at Bidwell, what we discovered was the only thing that was wrong with poor people is what they didn't have any money. And that happened to be a curable condition. And that kind of became the basis of his focus, which was we need to create a place of dignity and hope for people that need to change their lives. So with that in mind, he formed the Manchester Bidwell Educational Model. It does two things, and sometimes it can seem a strange marriage, but if you think about it, it really all makes sense. The Manchester Bidwell Model does two things. It provides after-school visual arts programming for middle and high school students, mainly in the visual arts, but also in the digital arts. So here in Erie, as we replicate, we're looking at classes in photojournalism, in film production, in ceramics, in spoken word poetry, which many of our youth in Erie will see as rap, but will really be a great way for them to express themselves through poetry. Also through painting and drawing, we're looking at a whole host of after-school programs for these youth. This will be open to all youth in Erie County. My heart is certainly in the city of Erie, so I know that we'll be serving students in the city first, but we are open and welcome all students in the county. The other part of our programming will be daytime state certified job training for adults. This will be a medical assistant program, medical assistant in phlebotomy, and also a medical coding and billing program. We're also talking about the possibility of a CDL training program. And let me tell you why that is. So we know that many of the folks that will be coming to us for these programs have a lot of baggage. Some of them quite possibly will be re-entering society after a time, perhaps in the criminal justice system. And a job in a hospital or in a nursing home will not be open to them because of their criminal background. So we want to make sure that our offerings include opportunities for folks from all backgrounds. In Manchester Bidwell and Pittsburgh, they've had great success with a culinary arts training program specifically for folks coming in from re-entry. We're looking at a CDL program. We think it can do the same. But the most important thing that you need to know about these programs, and what I believe truly sets us apart and what speaks to that idea of radical optimism and opportunity, is all of these programs are offered at no cost to any student. We recognize that in the city of Erie and in the county, there are training programs. You have organizations like EIT and Fortis who do provide these programs, but unfortunately that's all at a price tag. And so if you're really asking a person to change their life and then you're saddling them with a $20,000 loan payment that they'll have to pay off, you're really setting them up for failure from the beginning. And so all of our programs are offered at no cost to any student. We don't ask how much they make. We don't ask whether that's something that they should or shouldn't receive. We simply ask for them to make a personal commitment to come every day, to commit themselves to the education and to the learning. All of our adult programs are 9-month programs. They start just on the school year in late August or September, go for 9 months. They finish with an externship. So the student actually gets a foot in the door at a local hospital or doctor's office where they can hopefully have that lead to employment. And then they graduate from our program with a state certified with state certification, and we hope that that will be enough to get them on the path to living wage work. One other thing that's very important about our model is we are not interested in training folks for minimum wage positions. We understand that minimum wage is available and it's out there, but this is about changing lives. So it must be middle wage, living wage, family sustaining wage. We will not create programs for folks to only have them end up in minimum wage jobs. We also want to make sure that we're training them for jobs that actually exist. So there's no point for us in providing training for a program where there aren't enough jobs in our community. So we're constantly in conversations with our employers to say, what do you need? Who can we train? And Bill Strickland was incredibly important and incredibly successful in doing this in Pittsburgh. And we want to follow that model as we replicate in Erie. So when we talk about the arts programming for our youth, it all really comes to this core philosophy. And Al mentioned it already. He already kind of jumped my game a little bit, but that's okay, because the core philosophy of ECAT and of Manchester Bidwell is really these three things. Number one, people are assets. People are assets. Given hope, given opportunity, dignity, and respect, we believe every person can change their life and be successful. Number two, environment shapes behavior. If you put a person in a building that's falling down, if you put a student in a place that is dark and lacks hope and light, their behavior will follow. If you put them in a place of beauty, if you put them in a place of light, we believe that that environment will make them stand up tall, will make them hold themselves and know that this is a place that was built for them and that they can be successful here. And number three, we believe that creativity fuels enterprise. Strickland was incredibly successful in Pittsburgh because he thought outside the box and he got creative. We are not just another nonprofit that looks for handouts. We are a nonprofit that purchased a building and has tenants and is looking for ways to build revenue streams to support our nonprofit work. Some of our sister centers in places like Grand Rapids and Sharon have actually created revenue generating streams where students are creating t-shirts and selling them, bringing money back in for themselves and for the center. And so we really believe that that is the way for creativity to continue to fuel this good work that we're doing. I loved this quote from Bill Strickland's book. And again, I highly recommend it. It's called Make the Impossible Possible. But he talks here about why arts for kids. Are we trying to create a generation of artists? We're really not. What we're doing is we're trying to show kids that there is magic and beauty in the world and that they can stop defining themselves by what they can't do and get a glimmer of what meaningful life might feel like. Strickland tells a wonderful story about just ceramics in that when you create a bowl and it falls apart, it shows you that sometimes things don't work out and you just have to get back on the wheel and do it again. And we know that so many of our students, whether they live in the county or the city, fighting things and the implications of poverty and trauma, we know that they don't have a lot of that in their lives. And so these visual arts programs give them an opportunity to create beauty, to see what that looks like, and to, we hope, succeed at something that will translate into their life. So I've talked about the model and I've talked about the vision, but now I'm going to talk about how and why we're bringing this to Erie. So when we decided, myself as the executive director and my wonderful board that sits behind me, when we decided that it was time to bring this, we needed a physical location. And so in our search across the city, Wayne School was for sale at the time by the Erie School District. Ironically, I was part of the team that closed that building when I worked for the district. It was incredibly painful. We knew it was painful for the neighbors and the families. But the building was sitting vacant in 2019 and we were able to purchase it from the district. We paid $250,000 for it, which might seem to some like a steal, but I'll tell you it needed a lot of work. We committed to the district to put it back on the tax rolls. I am very, very committed to property taxes and making sure that the entire city benefits. So we put the building back on the tax rolls. And this photo on the right side of your screen, it's funny because this was actually a mural in the building. And so when I walked in there and we saw this, it almost like Bill Strickland was already there for us, showing how we could make possible from impossible. So we purchased that building in 2019, and it took us a year to build the capital stack we needed to renovate it. We are now in the middle of a $12 million renovation of this building. $100,000 off the top was simply asbestos remediation. I can't even explain to you. We believed it'd be 100, it went up from there. So there was asbestos in the building, extreme amounts of demolition that had to happen in the building, but we were committed to it because we knew we wanted to put a stake in the ground on Erie's East Side. We wanted to show those neighbors, that community, that we were there, that we wanted to invest with them, and that this would be a place for the entire community to gather. So as we're doing this renovation, these are some photos. The photo on the left is the entrance of the building. It's right off the parking lot on East 7th Street. We've just put in the staircase that you can see there. We've put in an elevator. Again, it's a $12 million project. The photo on your right there is the exterior of the building. So the only change we're making, and we wanted to be really careful about this, it is a historic structure. Wayne was built in 1914. So the only change we're making to the exterior of the building is we are building this beautiful new glass entryway where everyone will come in, whether it's for the adult job training programs or the after school programs for youth, and everyone will have this beautiful experience of entry into the building. So now, having seen what it looks like now, I want to show you what it will look like in very few months. So this is the new entryway. This is an artist rendering of the entryway of the building. You'll see those stairs that I just showed you on the right-hand side there. Again, this is a place where we believe people will stand up and say, I can't believe they made this for me. On the orange wall, you can see a new elevator we put in, and right behind that, it's hard to see in this picture, is a beautiful water feature, a 2-story waterfall that will come down. It's kind of a hallmark of the Manchester Bidwell programs. Every center has some sort of water feature at the entrance, again, as a signal that this is something beautiful that was made for you. This is the brand new exterior entry of the building. There's that glass entryway that we're adding. Again, this is an artist rendering, but you saw the steel is up. We are now 6 months into construction. We expect our interior spaces to be complete in June, and we expect occupancy on this entire building in July. And so this is really just a summary of what we've done and who will be in that building with us, because the other part of the story is that we're not going to be alone. So of this $11.5 million renovation, you can see kind of how we got there. We did it through a very creative financing plan called the Federal New Market Tax Credit. That's a conversation for another day. It's incredibly complicated. We were the first to do it in Erie, and I'm proud that we did, because it brought a brand new revenue stream into the city. But more importantly, here's what we're doing. So Wayne is 80,000 square feet. On the ground floor of that building, there will be a pharmacy. There will be a beautiful gallery. It's the old school cafeteria. It can host art exhibits. It can host film exhibits. We're putting $75,000 into that room, so we have space for film, for gatherings, for meetings. We're working with Second Harvest Food Bank on putting in a fresh food market, and then there will be a nonprofit co-working space for some small nonprofits. The Blue Coats, who some of you might be familiar with, they'll be putting their offices in that building. Emma's Footprints, which is an organization dedicated to helping parents recover from the loss of a child, they'll be putting their brand new doula program in that building to help mothers of color in their pregnancies. On the first floor of the building, where we, ECAT, will do our work, that youth arts training and the adult job training during the day. On the second floor of the building, I'm so proud, United Way of Erie County will join us there. They've bought a condo space and they're moving their offices to be there with us in that neighborhood. And then Primary Health Network, which is a federally qualified health center. They're currently in the basement of the building. They're moving up to this brand new space, 8,000 square feet. They'll be able to serve 3 times the number of patients that they serve now with primary health care, specialty care, and behavioral health. And then on the third floor, the top floor of the building, UPMC is putting in their proprietary School of Nursing, the Jameson School of Nursing, where they'll be training nurses to meet local needs. So again, what we're doing there, I would say, is definitely radically optimistic. We are working to make the impossible possible, as Bill Strickland has said. The vision is a big one. It has been a big swing, both in terms of the size of the building, the size of the cost that was needed to renovate it, but we truly believe when we are fully operational this fall, we will be changing the lives of folks in that neighborhood, of students in the area, and throughout Erie County. I'm so grateful that I was, had the opportunity to share that vision with you today. I hope you found it inspiring. I'll tell you, I've given this talk to a lot of business groups, but speaking to a church organization to me felt different. And I really wanted to express that vision and excitement. I hope I have. I don't know if we have time for questions. I wasn't clear if that was part of the program today, but please find our website, www.eriecat.org, and certainly reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So Al, again, thank you so much. Appreciate being with you all this morning.
Thank you, Daria. And we do have a congregational meeting after the service this morning, so I think we'll skip the questions and answers, except there will be a little time. We have a few more rituals to do, and then there will be a little time, if you can hang around, where we might plug in some questions and answers towards 10:30, not towards 11:30. I mean. So the next thing on our order of service is some meditation music that Jackson's going to play, and during the music, this would be a good time to use our chat box. You can type in a few words using the chat box. You don't need to have a joy or a sorrow. Simply type in a few words about how you're feeling. Please do not publicly respond directly to anyone's entry. Diane will sort of summarize what is in our chat box after the meditation music. So Jackson, are you ready with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna switch it to Mercy Mercy. I was gonna do a Zawinul suite kind of thing, so I'm gonna play. This is Mercy 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 by Joe Zawinul.
you, Jackson. We'll pause now for a moment of meditation, silent meditation. Diane, you could maybe summarize some of the entries of joys and concerns.
Absolutely. There was very much appreciation expressed for the presentation today and the information about the ECAT project. As well, we are really hopeful and it's very exciting news. We're also very grateful for the choir today and really enjoyed their work. Saddened by the loss of some city leaders. Joy about the inclusion of the young adult group in upcoming gatherings, and appreciation for, well, again, some more appreciation for this upcoming project on the East Side. As well, the Coasties, you have a verbal announcement.
I can make it now. I was planning to make it later, but it is a joy. As we begin our pledge campaign, our very first week, we had 23 pledges received in the mail, and we have many more to go. But what's really exciting is that 74% of those first 23 have increased their pledges. So we love that wonderful start. We'll be continuing for 2 more weeks. So if you have any questions, please give me a note here in the chat and I'll be glad to answer any of those that I can. Great start, everybody. Thanks.
I did kind of combine those, didn't I? Well, as it goes, we hold all of these feelings in our hearts, these feelings that have been spoken, have been unspoken. Know that you are all a part of this loving community.
Thank you, Diane. I have these closing words for our service today. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. It's time now to extinguish the chalice. So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Jackson will perform the postlude now. It's Birdland is the name of the song. Thank you.